Hey, it's Tony Mecia with the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger podcast. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. Today, we have a special episode for you. We're talking about the 2024 general election, and we're looking in this episode a little more closely at the statewide candidates, everything from governor and lieutenant governor to agriculture commissioner, insurance commissioner, and some judicial races. With me today is Charlotte Ledger Director of Election Information, Sucharita Kodali. She led a team, a very capable team, that assembled the Charlotte Ledger Election Hub for this election. What the Election Hub is, it's a collection of candidate biographies and information on 200 candidates in 5 counties: Mecklenburg, Gaston, Cabarrus, Iredell, and Union. And the goal of the Election Hub is to provide unbiased, trustworthy information that you can use when you go to vote on all of those state and local races that you probably haven't heard anything about. You can find the Election Hub at ncelectionhub.com. So Sucharita led that effort. She's with me today to talk about the statewide races. Sucharita, welcome.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be here.
Okay, we're going to move quickly through these, and some are a little more familiar than others. There are 14 statewide races on the ballot of every North Carolinian, and there's also a referendum as well. So we want to get into those. Let's start at the top. Governor, what do we have?
You've probably heard of Josh Stein and Mark Robinson. They are the names that are well known. Mark Robinson is the Republican, a little bit controversial, but he's currently the lieutenant governor. Josh Stein is the current attorney general. I don't want to get into too much, but what I do also want people to know is there are 3 alternative party candidates also that you have a choice to vote for if you choose. We have a Green Party candidate, a Constitution Party candidate, a Libertarian candidate.
You've got some choices there. People probably already have some opinions on that one, but let's see. Lieutenant governor, we've got Rachel Hunt. She's a Democrat, the daughter of former Governor Jim Hunt. So people might know that name. Hal Weatherman. He was the former chief of staff for some well-known political figures, Lieutenant Governor Dan Forrest. And before that, a lot of people here have been here a long time, might know Charlotte Mayor and U.S. Representative Sue Myrick. He was the chief of staff for her. So he's been involved in politics, and now he's running for office himself. And in this race, you also have a couple third-party candidates. You have Wayne Jones, the Constitution candidate. And you have Shannon Bray, Libertarian. So, so certainly some strong Charlotte connections on that one. All right, next up, Attorney General. What do we got?
Yeah, we have Jeff Jackson, who is a Democrat and from Mecklenburg County. He's currently a U.S. congressman. And actually, this is an interesting race because there are 2 sitting U.S. congressmen, both vying for this role. The other one is Dan Bishop. He is the Republican, and he's also from Charlotte and has been a long time in the area. He was actually on the Mecklenburg County Commission at one point.
Right. This one, if you've seen the ad, it's getting kind of hot a little bit. And they've debated a couple of times. Dan Bishop, pretty outspoken. And then Jeff Jackson, he's known, I think, pretty well as being out there on social media. So it's a real contrast in styles here and on the issue. So that would be a good one for people to check out. Auditor candidates.
There are 3 auditor candidates. The Democrat is actually the sitting auditor right now. Her name is Jessica Holmes, and she took the place of a longtime auditor named Beth Wood, who was essentially asked to resign. The Republican candidate is Dave Bullock. He won a runoff from the primary. He is a trustee of UNC Chapel Hill. He's an attorney and led the audit committee at Chapel Hill. I do think it's also worthwhile to look at the Libertarian candidate. In this case, his name is Bob Drack, and he is an accountant.
That's true. That's true on all of these. And the next up, a superintendent of public instruction. Again, a pretty sharp contrast here. You have Maurice Mo Green, the Democrat. He used to be the school board attorney for Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. He was with, I believe, the Greensboro, the Guilford County schools. And then you have Michelle Morrow, a Republican, on the other side. She's a stay-at-home mother of 5 who homeschools, and she's been very politically active, pretty outspoken. And then next up, Commissioner of Agriculture. Let's see. Again, you have a lot of contrast here. I mean, you have Steve Troxler, the Republican. He's been the Commissioner of Agriculture for nearly 2 decades. Been in office quite a while, being challenged by Sarah Tabor. She's a Democrat, a consultant in the farming industry. She has a podcast, which addresses the U.S. food supply. And then you also have a third-party candidate, Sean Hall, a Libertarian. How do you look at this one?
The question is, do you want a candidate with a tremendous amount of experience because Troxler has been in the role for a long time, or are you interested in potentially seeing a newcomer?
That's true. Next up, Commissioner of Insurance. What does the Commissioner of Insurance do?
The Commissioner of Insurance manages all sorts of insurance-related issues. They're allowed to regulate rate hikes. They manage consumer complaints against insurance companies. We have two candidates also. One of it, on the Democratic side, you have Natasha Marcus, may be familiar to a lot of Mecklenburg County residents because she is a sitting state senator. And you have Mike Causey, who's been in the role for a long time. He's been elected pretty much in 2016. So that would make this is his third term. So, and he's on the Republican side.
And then Commissioner of Labor, you got Braxton Winston, who's a Democrat. People might know him. He was formerly on the Charlotte City Council, made a name for himself in the Keith Lamont Scott protests, had a political career in Charlotte running. He says, wants to protect workers, wants the government to be a little more active in that. He's running against Luke Farley, a Republican. He's a lawyer in the construction industry. He volunteers for conservative causes. Probably, if you had to look at this, you would say this probably cuts down typical partisan lines where the Republican is maybe a little more pro-business, let the private sector figure it out. Or the Democrat is more, okay, let's have government take a little closer look at what's going on.
Yes, I would say that. And that's also a similar breakout for the next race, which is Secretary of State. And they are the people that manage all of the creation of corporations, the LLCs, they register trademarks and do a lot for businesses in North Carolina. And we have another longtime seat holder, an incumbent Democrat, Elaine Marshall. She's been in the role for a number of terms. And then on the Republican side, you have Chad Brown, who would be a newcomer, and he has primarily served in local politics. Who's the mayor of a small town in Gaston County.
Right, the mayor of Stanley, which is in Gaston County, not to be confused with Stanley County, which is on the other side of Charlotte. Okay, we got that one. And then the treasurer race. This is an open seat because the current treasurer ran for governor and lost in the primary. But here we have Wesley Harris, who's a Democrat. He's represented Mecklenburg County in the House since 2019. He's an economist, has a PhD in economics from Clemson. He's up against Brad Briner, a Republican who has managed investments for the former New York City mayor and presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg. He recently joined the board of trustees at UNC Chapel Hill. I know these two have talked about how, the treasurer, how do you invest pension fund money? How do you get your returns back? That sort of thing are some of the issues there.
Yeah. And I think that's really the question is, who do you think would be better suited to manage the investments? That's really what this role is to make sure that those pension funds have a return and continue to be solvent.
Right. Okay. Now that's it for the Council of State. There are a few judicial races. The biggest one is the Supreme Court Associate Justice race, seat 6. There's only one race for the Supreme Court. You might recall that in the last election, the Republicans took control in a pretty decisive way. And so this race won't switch the court necessarily, but, it's an important seat. What do we have here?
Yeah, there are actually 7 justices and 5 are Republican and 2 are Democrats. Yeah. And one of the Democrats is running to hold on to her seat. That is Allison Riggs. She is currently she's currently running against the Republican who's Jefferson Griffin. And if she were to lose, it would flip that seat. So then you'd have 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat.
Right. She's been running some commercials, some issues oriented on, women's health care, abortion, that kind of thing, which is a little unusual in the judicial races. They don't usually get into the issues that much.
And these are long terms. I mean, these are 8-year terms. Jefferson Griffin is currently on the appellate court. He's the Court of Appeals judge. So this would be, I guess, a promotion in some ways for him. And the Supreme Court, it's the highest court of North Carolina, but it is also going to see a lot of these challenges from the state legislature, these issues related to gerrymandering, abortion, et cetera.
Right. So turning to the appellate court races, there are 3 of these races. There are 15 judges on the appeals court, 11 Republicans, 4 Democrats. There are 3 races on the ballot. We break them all down for you on the Election Hub. That might be the best way to dig into those a little bit more. Well, that'll do it for this wrap up of the statewide races for the Charlotte Ledger. If you want more information, you can check out ncelectionhub.com. This podcast was produced by Lindsay Banks.